Hey guys, I'm out here in the garden and I'm harvesting some peppers right now. And I got a pretty good harvest for one day, I'd have to say. But it got me thinking, it is time for a lot of you to start thinking about overwintering your peppers. Did you know you could do that? If you knew it or you didn't know it, put it down in the comments. So yes, peppers are perennial. Now, why overwinter them? Why not just start with a fresh bunch next year? Well, for places that have short growing seasons, and that's a lot more places than you think. Even here in Southern California, I am inland, and so the cold weather, at least here, lasts until about May. Too cold to be putting peppers out. And so if you start new peppers in May, they start to ripen up around August, September even. I have some right now that are plenty ripe, and I have some also that haven't ripened any on the plant yet, like this habanada here. They're just starting to turn orange, but no ripe ones yet. And that was put in the ground back in May. So why overwinter them? Because it gives you a huge head start next spring. You're starting from pretty much mature plants versus plants that are just small from the garden center or seeds. And while they can grow for more than 1 year, a lot of them you can get to grow for multiple years. I had a shishito pepper at my old house that we had for at least 5 years, and it could be still going. I don't know. And yes, it works for any type of pepper. Bell peppers, sweet peppers, and hot peppers. So that means a longer growing season for all of us. We don't have to start over with tiny garden center plants or seeds next year. And I don't care where you live. I have people contacting me who do it in Canada successfully, and those who are down in Alabama, Louisiana, Texas that do it successfully. So it's a time saver, an energy saver, and I know seeds don't cost a ton. Transplants do. It's a money saver too. So no matter what climate you're in, if you have peppers growing right now, you can overwinter them, and I'm going to show you how. Now in colder winter climates, this involves pruning the plant correctly, bringing it inside the house, so digging it up in most cases, bringing it inside the house, and putting it into a kind of suspended animation. Now, if you live in a milder winter climate where frosts are few and far between, stick around because I'm going to show you a special method, easier method, just for you. But let's get started with the first method. I'm going to go through the things you're going to need. Number one is hand pruners of some sort. I don't know where my Felcos are, so I grabbed these little guys. They're pretty sharp. But honestly, peppers aren't that big and strong of plants. You could use scissors if you don't have anything else. We need a pot to actually plant them in, and you want a pot on the small side between 1 and 3 gallons. This is about a 2-gallon pot. And you want a small pot because peppers don't like to sit in water, especially in the winter when they may not even be growing. So a smaller pot is going to drain better, and it's also going to let the plant soak it up and then dry out. The next thing you're going to need is some sort of phosphorus fertilizer. That's something with a high middle number. I'm going to be using bone meal. I'll have links to all these things down in the video description. The first number is nitrogen on a bag of fertilizer, and you don't want a lot of nitrogen or any nitrogen during the winter because that promotes green leafy growth. And we don't really want a lot of that during the winter. We want root growth and root maintenance, and that's what phosphorus is going to give us. So that's going to help keep the root system strong and even develop it. So little to no nitrogen unless you're going to be actually growing it indoors under a grow light. The next thing you need is pre-moistened indoor potting mix. And I stress indoor because typically that is going to be sterilized for an indoor growing environment, and that is going to greatly reduce the risk of you getting fungus gnats. If you've never had fungus gnats, you don't want to get them. They're tiny, annoying little bugs that fly all over everything, and if it's in your house, it's a mess. The next thing you're going to need is either hydrogen peroxide or mosquito bits. I'll get to that in a minute. Let's not overwhelm you with all this stuff right up front, because some of it you may or may not need. The next thing you need is either a south-facing sunny window. It doesn't need to be like direct sun, but it needs to be bright, or a grow light. And the last thing you need is a cold, icy heart, because extreme, severe pruning is about to happen. So let me take you through step by step. I promise this will all make sense. Step by step through taking a pepper plant out of your garden, moving it indoors for the winter, and having it stay ready to go in the springtime. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is remove any peppers that are still on the plant so you can save those. You may be in a situation where you're going to get a hard frost, where even if they're not ripe, you're going to have to remove them anyway. Now, if you planted late, or you live in a short growing season and your plant hasn't produced anything yet, maybe it's just starting to flower, you can still do exactly the way I'm showing you, except removing the peppers. In fact, this is going to be great for you if you do have that short of a growing season where your peppers just barely went into flower this year. Next year, you're going to be starting from a more mature plant that are ready to go out there and are going to give you fruit before any seed or brand new transplant would. Now, all of my peppers are still producing, and they will still produce for another couple of months. So I'm actually sacrificing this plant for the sake of education, but I'm not really sacrificing it. I've got plenty more of the same variety. Plus, this same plant will produce tons next year. All right, now it's time to prune. I'm gonna bring the camera in real close so you can see what's going on. All right, up close and personal, so be prepared. This is gonna get ugly. Okay, I put up this backdrop here so you won't get distracted by the plants behind it, and you can have a better look at what's going on here. So you can see down at the bottom, we've got this branch coming up. It looks a little diseased. So I'm gonna take that one off first, right at the trunk of the plant. Now, as we come up here, you see that it's branching in several different ways. And we're going to leave all those. It's totally fine to leave all those. The more branches you leave, the more it's going to produce more branches next year. So we're going to follow each branch up until we get to a node. And that's sometimes on a pepper plant, it's dark purple. But where this branches into a Y, we're going to follow it up to the next node. So start here to right here. We're going to cut right above that. Same on this one. We're going to go up till it branches into this Y right here, and then follow it up to the next two nodes and cut right above it. I'm just going to pull these leaves off as well. Same on this side of the Y. So here's the node right here. All right, so what we've done is we've come up here to a Y, let it branch, and cut it right above the next leaf nodes. All right, take these leaves off down here. We've got the branch coming up, and here's a Y. So we already cut this one off. And then this side of the Y, it's a little spindly. You could leave it or cut the whole thing off here. I'm gonna go ahead and leave it. Cut the leaves. And we're just gonna do that with all of the branches. And it does not have to be perfect at all. If you make a mistake and cut one of the wrong things, it's totally fine. All right, so this is what it looks like now. Now, if the branch grew straight up out of the ground, and this might happen in a short growing season and never branched, it just went straight up, and that can happen, go ahead and just count 1, 2, 3 leaf nodes and cut it above that. Once it leaves out in the spring and starts to branch, it's going to put out branches at each one of those leaf nodes. All right, now to dig it up, I got to move the mulch out of the way. And probably move these drip tape lines to the side. That one's probably okay. All right, so we're just going to dig out the pepper a little bit smaller than the pot you're going to use, because you want to be able to put some new the indoor potting mix in there. All right, so this pot doesn't have any holes in it yet, so I'm using this as a bucket, but you can use a separate bucket if you want to. What's in this bucket, or pot, is 1 part hydrogen peroxide to 3 parts water. And this is going to serve as a peroxide soak. So we're just gonna sit this root ball in here, let it soak for about 10 minutes, just so it's all soaked up and the soil is saturated with it. And this is going to kill any fungus gnats that might try to hitchhike their way into the house. Now, if you'd rather use mosquito bits, it's a little easier. Just sprinkle a bunch of these into the potting soil and mix it around before you plant. Because mosquito bits are not just for mosquitoes, they're for fungus gnats as well. You can see the foaming action of the hydrogen peroxide. All right, I decided to switch pots just so I don't have to mess with that. And I can just take it out and put it in here. Before I do that though, I'm going to mix in some bone meal, just a nice handful. Okay, it's been 10 minutes, so I'm going to reach in here and scoop all of that out. Put it in here. At this point, you can straighten up the plant. Mine was growing a little crooked, so I'm going to put it straight up and down there, add in some more of the indoor potting. Now you want to kind of bury it at the same level that it was growing, not any deeper, not any shallower. And now I'm going to go ahead and pour this water with the hydrogen peroxide in it, just to water this up well and continue that hydrogen peroxide working in there. Now, if you have an issue with aphids or scale or any other creepy crawlies on your plant, I mean, removing the leaves should get most of those off, but if you have an issue, you can always spray the branches that are here left with a little bit of neem oil. It's totally optional. All right, so now it's time to talk about what to do with this now that you've got it potted up. What are you going to do with it for the next several months during the winter time? Sticking to colder winter climates, I'll get to us warmer winter climates in a minute. But if you live where it frosts regularly, you get snow and ice, it definitely has to go inside. Now for the first week or two, it's gone through a traumatic change right here, and you want to give it some time to recover. And so you don't want to hit it with direct light. Anywhere inside with minimal light, some reflected light, that's totally fine. But after a week or two, they're going to start needing some light. Now, if you can provide them with direct sunlight 4 to 6 hours a day, that's great. South-facing window, that would be great. They might actually flush out. They might actually start producing fruit. It depends. Now, if you don't have any south-facing windows, that's okay. Try to give them 6 hours a day of indirect light, reflected light, in a sunny window that's not direct sun. That'll be okay. They probably won't leaf out too much, which is fine, and they definitely won't produce fruit. The point is, the higher light level you have, the more they're going to leaf out. So you don't have to freak out if they're leafing out. That's okay. You don't have to freak out if they're not leafing out. If you're in a low light situation, that's okay too. What you don't want to see is branches turning brown, black, dry. That's not a good sign. They should still be green and healthy looking like this for the most part. You might have a little dieback at the ends, but probably not if you're taking good care of them and they've got sufficient light. Now, I get asked if you can put them into a greenhouse, and the answer is yes and no. If you have a heated greenhouse where the temperatures don't get down into the freezing level, which in a lot of greenhouses in the wintertime, they can be really warm in the daytime, but they can go below freezing at night. So you just want to make sure that, you can keep them in the low 40s. Don't go below that or you're going to start risking it. So if your greenhouse is heated and it doesn't get below, 40 degrees Fahrenheit, then you should be fine to put them in a greenhouse. I also get asked if you can bring them indoors at night and put them out during the day. Yes, if you've got the stamina for that, they're going to love the actual sunlight, as long as, again, you keep it above 40 degrees Fahrenheit. If your daytime temperatures are lower than that, then don't put them out. Now, no matter where you grow them or what kind of light you give them, they're going to need water. Not a lot. The finger test here applies maybe more than any other time. You stick your finger in a couple of inches. If you feel moisture, do not water. If it feels dry, definitely give it some water, but don't let it sit in water. Now, indoor potting mix drains very well, so you shouldn't have an issue, but always use that finger test. Now, you should also know with watering, if you don't see any leaves or new growth coming out, it probably doesn't need much water at all. You want to keep it on the drier side. If you do have a flush of growth, then you might need a little bit more water. But again, finger test. In the spring, once your nighttime temperatures get above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, it's time to plant them back into the garden. And you can plant them back in the same spot you had them in before if you amend the soil. You do want to harden them off like we do seedlings. So look at your 7-day forecast, and when you see 3 consecutive overcast days, put them out there right before that so they get those 3 overcast days, and that's going to harden them off, and now they're going to be able to take whatever sun comes out on the 4th, 5th, and 6th day. Now, you long-suffering, warm winter climate people like me, if you live in a climate that has 0 frost whatsoever, maybe you're in Florida, Hawaii, South America, I don't know where you are. If you have 0 frost whatsoever, kind of like I did at my last house, you don't need to do anything. You can just leave them in the bed, keep watering them. The rain might do that. Now, I'm not saying they're going to look wonderful all winter. By spring, they're probably going to look pretty haggard. And at that point, you can cut the plants back by about 1/3, remove all the old ugly leaves, and it'll start pushing growth as soon as the weather starts to warm up again. So you guys have it easy. Now, what about us people in between that? Here, we do get weather like January that does dip down into the low 30s. We do get some frost, not a lot, but like I said, it's about the month of January. So for us, there's a couple things we can do. We can do exactly what I just did here, dig them up, set them against the south wall of your house. That south wall absorbs heat during the day and it will kind of let it go at night. So it'll just keep your peppers a few degrees warmer than the outside air. I would also cover them with some fleece or some floating row covers. Between those two things, they're going to be fine, and then you can replant them once the nights get back up into the 50s. And they'll probably start growing out before that while they're in their pots. You just want to make sure they're protected until the nights are in the 50s. Another thing you can do is to just build a protection cover, be it plastic or fleece, right over the bed they're growing in. If that sounds appealing, click on this video right here, and I'm going to show you step by step exactly how to do that. I'll see you guys next time.